There is one thing no one ever really talks about that is powerfully influencing our state of mind, how our body functions, and even the intergenerational patterns we may be playing out. And shifting this can make you feel like you're in a completely different body. I'm Karina, and welcome to my channel where we discuss practical tools to elevate our wellness from a mind, body, soul perspective. The thing that no one ever told me was influencing my low blood pressure, my anxiety, my liver function, and even the level of hair growth that I was experiencing was posture. The way that we predominantly hold our bodies is influencing the way that our bodies function and the way that we feel emotionally. Let's talk about the first part, how our posture influences the way that our body functions internally. The way that we hold our bodies is influencing our organ function and our blood flow. If specific organs don't have the necessary musculoskeletal support, or if they're compressed in some way because of our posture, they're not going to be functioning at their best. And similarly, if blood is not able to flow efficiently to nourish the cells of our body, we're at a disadvantage health-wise. So for example, if we're in a postural habit where we're thrusting our ribs out like this, then our blood from our heart has to take a very windy route to nourish our digestive organs. And if we're in a habit of thrusting our stomach forward and pushing our pelvis forward like this, then our liver and our digestive organs are not supported by the rest of our body. When I aligned my body optimally, my liver function dramatically improved. My liver enzymes totally went down. And my low blood pressure, which I had struggled with since I was a child, since before I could remember, where I would feel dizzy doing yoga inversions and even just getting up from off the ground, all of that disappeared and my blood pressure normalized. And all of this happened within a week or so of aligning my body. And it probably goes without saying that adjusting our postural alignment is also going to relieve any muscle or joint pain that we're experiencing. I have never met a client or a student in one of my classes who was experiencing pain while moving that wasn't resolved by adjusting their postural alignment. And this may happen over a period of time as they strengthen and release certain muscles to get into alignment. But the fact remains that adjusting our posture is the primary needle mover when it comes to experiencing any pain in our bodies. And then the next thing that shifts when we realign our posture is the way that we feel emotionally. The way that we balance our spine against gravity is directly correlated with the way that we balance our autonomic nervous system. So if our spinal alignment is out of balance, we may be on one end of the spectrum where we are predominantly in the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system response, where we're chronically stressed, anxious, or fearful. Or we might be on the other end of the spectrum where we're predominantly in this parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system response, which on the surface sounds like it might be a good thing, but too much of this can leave us feeling sluggish, unmotivated, even depressed, or questioning the meaning of life. We want to effectively be able to shift between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system responses and just have a balance of both. And then going even deeper, there are certain nerve bundles called plexuses located at certain parts of the spine that are associated with emotional themes. So for example, the lumbosacral and coccygeal plexuses that are located at the base of the spine are associated with the emotional themes of security, of belonging, and of nurturing. And then the solar plexus, which is one you may be familiar with, that plexus is associated with feelings of willpower, of commitment, of identity, and self-esteem. The body and the way that it's related to our emotions is this beautiful and mysterious relationship, but we can demystify it by shifting our body's alignment and seeing our emotions shift as a result. So when we change the way that our nerve bundles are placed across the spine, then they can send different signals to our nervous system, allowing us to experience different emotions. So for example, if we're in that postural habit we talked about earlier, where we're kind of pushing our stomach and our pelvis out like this, then our solar plexus is compressed at our spine. And then if we bring that in a little bit more like this, so that our navel is more in line with our breastbone, then the solar plexus behind us is released, and we can experience feelings of empowerment. And this is something that might happen immediately, or it might happen gradually over time as this new postural pattern becomes a habit. But if you're someone who, for example, is just always experiencing feelings of doubt and things like that, it's not your fault. It's not like anything is wrong with you. Just try this new alignment pattern and see how that shifts things emotionally. So now let's talk about what optimal alignment actually is. We talked about a brief example, but let's talk about it as a whole. So from a basic perspective, optimal alignment is when the three natural curves of the spine are present. And this would be a natural upward curve of the lower back, a slight rounding of the upper back, not too much, and then another upward curve of the neck of the cervical spine. And there are a lot of different postural compensations that we all have, that we've all picked up over our lifetimes, that can compromise this alignment. And so one of them would be tucking our tailbone under, which is going to flatten the lower back. Another one would be overly rounding the upper back. And then another one would be forward head posture, where we're flattening the upward curve of the neck of the cervical spine. And there are a number of tools that I use when I work with clients to help release these patterns. One of them might be a set of exercises to strengthen certain areas of the body and release tension in others. We may also work with body landmarks and cues to help them practice the new patterns of alignment and be able to implement them on a consistent basis. And the important thing to remember with all of this is that the goal is not to maintain perfect alignment all of the time. That would make our bodies pretty rigid. And it probably is going to activate a little bit of neurosis, which is not what we want. So the goal is just how quickly can we come back into alignment when we've fallen out? Can we spend a majority of our time there and not necessarily all the time there, right? We want to just infuse a little bit of compassion into this process. No need to get everything right perfectly all of the time. I have found that postural realignment is the secret tool, the secret weapon, so to speak, when it seems like people are doing everything else right for their health, but things still don't seem to be getting better. So I remember the first time that I realized this when I was just learning about postural restoration. I was listening to a podcast interview. The host was this very well-known biohacker, and he had been doing all the right things for his health. He had a great diet. He was taking all these supplements because everyone was just sending him all these things, high quality supplements, and he was doing all these detox protocols and everything. But the guest on the podcast was looking at his labs, and the guest concluded that his liver was not functioning optimally, even though he was doing all these other things. And the guest's conclusion was that there might be some sort of parasite in the liver. And that may be true. But I then just decided, I felt compelled to look at this person's posture. I looked at a picture of him in profile, and I could see that he had this postural habit of jutting his pelvis and his stomach forward. And I could tell right away that this was a contributing factor to his liver not functioning optimally. And then the really interesting thing, if we want to go even deeper down the rabbit hole, is that the current postural patterns that we have may be subconscious imitations of the postural patterns of our parents or the people that we grew up with. When we were children, those mirror neurons were firing, and we were subconsciously taking on those same patterns that we saw in our parents. And I remember when I was working with a physical therapist at the beginning of my journey to realign my posture, mostly for my scoliosis, it was really imperative for my health that I actually focus on my posture first before anything else. And while she was coaching me to draw my stomach in so that my navel was in line with my breastbone, I found it so difficult. I found that my abdominal muscles just were not following the directions that I was giving it. And even the physical therapist was surprised because I was fairly fit and active, but this just was not coming along, at least not right away. And when I visited my parents later, I realized they had the same postural compensation that I did. And so it almost felt like this was an emotional part of myself, like it was an emotional attachment to continue with the same postural patterns as my parents had. And somehow it was like if I realign my posture deep in my psyche, it was like I was separating myself from my emotional support system, from my family. And so even though these things can feel deeply ingrained, if we just give it time, we just work on releasing these patterns gradually and with some patience, we will find that we are able to release deep patterns, health and emotional patterns from our parents and even from the generations that came before them. So this can be really powerful stuff. And so when we realign our posture, this is why we can feel like completely different people and completely different bodies, because our physical and emotional energetic body is now functioning in an entirely new way. This is renewal to the highest degree. So is postural restoration alone going to change your health and your life? No. If you're eating a poor diet and or you're thinking limiting thoughts that you're not ready to let go of, then you won't necessarily experience optimal health just by realigning your body. Although, if you're eating a poor diet, you're probably so inflamed and your muscles are just not strong enough to actually find optimal alignment in your body. But if you are someone who's doing all the right things, so to speak, in terms of your health, like diet and lifestyle, if you are also engaged in mental emotional practices like meditation, but you're still seeing that there are things in your health that you're struggling with, either mental or physical, then it might be time to look at your posture and not from a critical lens, but from a compassionate one, from a hopeful one, knowing that this could be the key to unlocking a new level and a new experience of health. If you found this video valuable, feel free to like it. And if you want to learn more about how to feel amazing in your mind and your body, you can hit the subscribe button. Lots of love and hope to see you soon.